are correct for the live stream podcast, Blast of Strangeness, episode 9. So I know what you're thinking. Well, where's the rest of everything tonight, like your mic and all that? Well, tonight I'm not going to bother with that for this episode. So anyway, so I was thinking, let's pick right back up to where we left off about last night. Oh, wasn't last night's episode amazing, by the way, to where as a one-time thing that you, the viewers, were actually able to get away with saying random comment or random question, asking random questions, getting random answers, and random comments, and saying whatever you want to say, whether you were being nice or being really horrible. Wasn't it nice to finally get away with that for once? Oh, I know. So anyway, now, tonight we're not going to do that. But now, what we will get back to. So like I had said before, years ago, you probably all know the story by now, I was living in this older 1970s mobile home trailer at the time that was a rental property, to where I've had lots of paranormal experiences in, and just all kinds of weird things had happened there. Anywho, so there were just so many things that had happened there. And yes, I mean, I know after stuff had happened, I had still lived there for a while up until I moved out of there. Then what I did at the time when I had moved out of there, I actually moved into another 1970s mobile home trailer, one that was a little newer, and did not have any of those issues when I had moved into one that was, it was still old, but it was a little more modern on the inside. Thank God. But that's besides the point. So anyway, I mean, how would I say this? I knew something was strange with that place the day that we moved in there, because the day we moved in there when I was little, I was probably like 7 or 8 when we had first moved in there. So we had just moved out of our apartment at the time that we were living in. So we moved into this 1970s mobile home trailer. It was like real old, like from the 70s, you know? So it had these old-fashioned electrical circle knobs for the breaker box, which we'll get into that. So the day we moved in, this is when I realized something wasn't right with the place. The day we moved in, it was during the day. You know, we pulled into the driveway, got our stuff out of the car, started bringing it in. We turned the lights on in there. And even with the lights on in there during the day, it was still dark. That was a sign to me right there that something was not right with that place. But then we were just like, oh, okay, maybe that's just how it is here. I mean, we didn't know that at the time much about the place until after we moved in. And then I had lived there for, years. I want to say we had lived there up till I was 13. Or no. We lived there up till I was 14, actually. So then we lived there when I was up until I was 14. And then that summer, we ended up moving out of there. And we ended up moving into a different mobile home trailer further away that was just a year newer than that previous model, which was the only difference. That was a rental too. But we had moved out of that 1970s mobile home trailer one other time too. But then we ended up moving back in. Because the only reason that we ended up moving back in at the time was because due to the fact that this old apartment, it was an upstairs apartment that we were moving into nearby in town. just to be a little closer to stuff. So we do that. We move in there. Well, we didn't live there very long, actually. We actually ended up moving back. We ended up moving out of that apartment and ended up moving back into that 1970s mobile home trailer at the time. Well, come to find out, the apartment was actually haunted too. Because years ago, that apartment used to be an old funeral home, and it also used to be an old doctor's office. And the doctor slept in the bedroom that I had at the time, in the bedroom that was mine, and the doctor had passed away in that bedroom. And right where my bed was where the doctor's bed used to be. And that doctor actually slept right where my bed actually was, in the same spot where I did. So therefore, yeah, that was kind of creepy. Then one night, all of a sudden, I had the bedroom door slightly open, in that old apartment for that bedroom. And you could see like out into the dining room / kitchen. So I happened to look out. Somebody was there standing where the door was, where I could see out, standing there looking at me, just watching me. I thought that was strange. Come to find out, I think it was that doctor. I really do. And then another time in this old apartment, one day, all these quarters suddenly started falling from the ceiling. Yeah, that was creepy. So then, that's the main reason why we actually had moved out of that apartment and actually had moved back into that 1970s mobile home trailer. As much as we did not want to go back to that trailer, we did. Well, we went back there for a few reasons. Even though that trailer was a haunted property as well. Because come to find out, where that mobile home trailer was, that 1970s mobile home trailer at the time, actually, at one time, that used to be an old cemetery. And so that explains some of the strange things that also would happen there. Another thing that had happened there too. One night in that mobile home trailer. So one night I'm in the bedroom watching TV, and all of a sudden I hear someone say, "Hey, turn off the TV." I look, I'm like, what on earth was that? So, I look, no one's there. Mind you, I had the bedroom door slightly open because I knew that as soon as the commercial came on, I was going to have to get up and go to the bathroom. So that's why the bedroom door was slightly opened. So, I was like, well, that was weird. So a commercial come on finally. I went to the bathroom, went back into the bedroom, closed the door, went to bed. TV stayed on that night, needless to say. So then the next morning comes, I ask, I'm like, hey, was anyone walk by my bedroom last night, tell me to turn off the TV? And, at this point, everyone says no. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I could not figure that out for nothing. To this day, still couldn't tell you what it was or who it was. So then, now, eventually, in this old 1970s mobile home trailer, we actually, the landlord, because it was a rental property at the time, so the electrical panel breaker box was updated with a newer one that was supposed to be more modern at the time, flip breakers. So all of a sudden, for some reason, this thing was all updated. Every night around the same time, I would hear this noise. That would sound like somebody was throwing a quarter at that electrical panel box And then it would make this weird noise besides, and then the breakers would shut off. So there I am in the dark with my flashlight at the time. Other than that, it was really dark in that room. So I flipped the breaker back on, comes on, stays on. Well, at first. So it happens again the next night, and I'm like, okay, why is this happening every time at night around the same time? Okay, strange. Well, that is a name. That also is the name of the podcast, Blasts of Strangeness. Anyway, something else that I had found out. So that happens, all of a sudden. The next night it happened again the second time, and I'm like, that's strange. Oh, there's more to it than just that. Oh God, that's horrible. Then all of a sudden, so one night my sibling, well, we had shared a bedroom. Well, at one point we were sharing a bedroom because the other room needed some repairs in the home, unfortunately. It just wasn't usable because we had a lot of stuff in there. So, needless to say, all of a sudden, next thing you know, me and my sibling, so we're in that bedroom one night. That electrical panel box would not shut off while me and my sibling were in that bedroom. Now, the only time it would happen in that bedroom is when I was in there alone. Oh, yeah. I literally had to be alone in that bedroom in order just for that to happen. I mind you. Ugh, it's horrible. So then, it ended up getting to the point to where this would happen every night. So, obviously, the electrician come out, looked at it, checked it. A couple times he had to come out, checked it. Everything kept checking out fine. And he said, okay, all right, you know what? I'll replace stuff if it needs to be replaced. And we said, okay, that's fine. So, got everything on it replaced. It still checked out fine. But every night around the same time, it would do it again. And then it got to the point to where it would do it at night. Just shut off for no apparent reason. It got to the point to where sometimes when you would flip the breaker back on, nothing would happen. It's like it would stay off until that next morning. Now that's strange, if you ask me. But like I said, all kinds of strange things would happen there. Then again, that is the name of the podcast, Blast of Strangeness. So then, I was actually just relieved when we actually got to the point to where we ended up moving out of there. Oh my God, the night before we moved, like I said, we had everything packed quickly to move out of there. So then finally that day came where we moved out of there. I was like, wow, talk about relief. So we had moved out of there, moved into another mobile home trailer. And I said to myself, let's see if this electrical panel does the same thing. Nope. This other mobile home trailer that we ended up moving into, it was a 1970s mobile home trailer too, but it was a little newer. And it was only a year newer than the previous model. That was a rental for us too. But that electrical panel box in there was actually brand new. How would I say this? That one did not have the old-fashioned one that the previous model had had. That one, for being a year newer at the time, actually came with a more modern electrical panel breaker box, apparently. So that one did not have any of them problems where it would just start shutting off whenever it felt like it. Well, eventually it had a problem to where it was just a wiring issue, but we found that out eventually and got that taken care of quickly. Because that was an us thing that we could fix on our own. Well, we did, but we obviously called in the professionals, and they told us, hey, we can fix this. What you got to do, and so we did. Had no problems after that. Then, now mind you, after we had moved out of that previous 1970s mobile home trailer, the older one that needed some upgrades in it. Now, we would often drive by there, like here and there at random, just to see if anybody was living there. Oh, people were living there, here and there. And then, just several months ago, one day we drove by there at random. And we drove by. The place ain't there anymore. It's gone. So, it's gone, and it's all overgrown. Then, one night, I had this very strange dream to where I'm at that property one night in this dream, some dream I had. So I'm in this dream to where there's an earthquake on that property. The ground on that property started to break, opened. Then there's this big hole. Some type of creepy thing appears out of this hole. Like it's nothing, I mind you. But I also see all these headstones, like in a cemetery, appear suddenly. Like lots of them. And then this hole that this weird creature jumped out of just looks at me. And then in this dream, comes into the home that I'm living in now, comes into my bedroom, comes up to my bed, right where I'm literally sleeping, gets up in my face and says, I'm here and on that property, and I have been causing all these strange things that have happened when you had lived and when you were living here at this property. And then I woke up. I was like, whoa, that's strange. Then, so that happens. And I was just like, whoa, I can't believe that just happened. But I do not know why I had that dream. But eventually it got to the point to where I moved really far away. And yeah, now I live real far away, which is even better, So now also at that mobile home trailer property, that previous 1970s model that needed some upgrades on the inside, obviously. I don't know if it ever got any of those upgrades or what. I don't know what it ever ended up getting or if it even ever did. I think it did eventually after I had moved out, but I don't know for sure. So then, all of a sudden, one time on that property when I was about 12 years old or so, still living there, all of a sudden, one night, the day starts out normal, like any other day. So later that night, I see this weird looking light in the sky that was staying completely still, I mind you, to the point where it staying so still. It was blue. It was this dark blue color. So it's staying still. I'm just like, okay. I see it one night and I'm like, all right, whatever. So, I don't pay no mind to it. I'm watching TV in my living room that night. It was winter time, So I'm sitting on the couch in the living room watching TV. Got a blanket wrapped around me, All of a sudden, I'm just there watching TV. And I happened to look over by the living room door I looked over by where the front door was. And so I'm sitting there in the living room, right where the front door is, like a few feet from that, looking over in that direction. I see these two palish white alien figures appear out of nowhere. They drag me off the couch into the kitchen area by the back table, or they drag me into my kitchen area / dining room area to where the table was, not far from the back door. So I was like, wow, that's strange. Okay. So next thing you know, I was like, okay. So before I can even make a run for it, they already have me in the kitchen / dining room. They end up embedding this big blue stone into my big toe that hurt like hell. And then I had to have it out, obviously, but they end up putting me back in the living room on the couch with a blanket wrapped around me still. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, there I am in the living room like nothing happened, watching TV still. I was like, whoa, that was strange. That was one of the strangest things that ever had happened there. Then, next thing you know, my big toe starts to hurt. I said, oh boy. I happen to look down at it. There's something blue in there. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So the next morning, I tell my parents, I'm like, hey, this thing got my foot somehow. I need it out now. So, my parents, they get it out. And they're just like, what the hell's that thing? Like, I don't know. Looks like a stone of some kind. That big blue stone in my foot was the same color blue as that light I saw the night before in the sky staying completely still. Now, that's strange. Now, I mean, I understand, some people may not believe in that type of thing. That's fine. You don't have to. Even if you don't, it may never happen to you, and it may never happen to you, or it may happen to you, even if you don't believe in it. It could still technically could still happen to you. I'm just saying that it could, not that it's going to. But anyway, now another thing. So I also, by the time I was in high school, I had this very bad educated mentor figure lady and the assistant lady. Oh, those two were so horrible. The main lady, thought that she was better than everybody else, all just because her family owned a business in another state, that she would travel from that state back to the state of where the school I went to was for her teaching job. Now, mind you, her family's business, yeah, just because they owned a business, she obviously didn't really make that much money with her family's business. So she started wearing these high designer clothes that she bought, obviously, when she became a teacher with her first paycheck from her job. I was like, who cares about your high designer clothes? We don't. But she thought by having these high designer clothes that she's better than everybody else. She's living this double life. Kind of find out her husband at the time was living a double life too. But yet, I mind you, here she was always worried about certain things she would eat, but yet she'd be sitting there eating things anyway. As she always would sit there and claim she was trying to watch her weight. She was eating all this stuff that she should not have been anyway. Then she would sit there and talk about other students in front of me and a friend of mine at the time about another student who didn't come in one day because they were out sick. She literally had nerve to talk about them, her and the assistant. Yeah, that's nervy. And then she would literally be horrible to students half the time with her attitude problem and her crappy teaching methods, the both of them. So then it got to the point to where one day the main lady was being horrible to another student, and all of a sudden she ended up breaking her leg, the main lady. And I said to myself, well, I could already tell you right now, oh, this is just a temporary break from her for right now, but it won't last long. She was out 2 weeks and then back. I looked at my friend at the time, who I had went to school with, who I was friends with for a long time. I looked at her. She looked at me. I just looked at her. I go, I said, oh, I guarantee this break will be shortly lived. Sure enough, it was. And I looked at her after again. When the teacher came back, I whispered to my friend, I said, I told you so. Now, I literally sat there and acted like, obviously I had no sympathy for the main lady after she broke her leg, because she was always horrible to me and to other students, literally having an attitude with us for no reason half the time. Oh yeah. So when she broke her leg, I had no sympathy for her, but I literally sat there and acted like I did. I acted like I did have sympathy for her, even though I didn't. Yeah, I know that sounds mean, but you would not understand unless you had her as your educated mentor lady figure. Then you would understand the way those people were. Then there was another lady in there. There was 3 of them. The 2 weren't very friendly. The one lady was really friendly. The aide lady. She was nice. She was very nice. She was a lot nicer than them 2. She's seen how they were always horrible to me. So one day I finally told her, I was like, can I talk to you for a minute? She went, yep. She talked and she goes, I see how they are with you. I said, yeah, I know. It's horrible, isn't it? She said, yep. So we talked because I was going through some stuff at the time. I told her, I'm like, hey, I'm going through all these things with a relative who's not doing very well. And the way these 2 are treating me, there's going to be a problem. I said, it'll get to the point to where I will either not come back and say the hell with it and not graduate at all, or I will contact the school board, or I will contact a United States attorney if they keep treating me like this. So she went and had a talk with the main lady, told her exactly what was going on, what I was going through. Oh, they were nice to me for about a day or so. It was it. And then went right back to the way things were. I thought to myself, you've got to be kidding me. So then the one relative who was really sick at the time that I was dealing with, going through all that, just because a relative of mine who was really sick at the time wasn't living in the same state that I was living in. They were at one time and then ended up moving to another state at one time. So I was going through that, and all of a sudden, one day this relative passed away. So obviously I didn't go to school that day. Oh, this woman had nerve to call me up on the phone screaming at me. I didn't answer. I was like, yeah, whatever. Have fun screaming at me. Oh, I heard her screaming in the voicemails. I was hot. Oh, I went back the next day. Oh, did I say something? That's for sure. Oh, I made sure I made it a point to open my mouth and say something. I didn't care. So then the assistant lady, oh, I'll tell you about her. Oh, she was horrible. Always acted like I was doing something wrong when I wasn't. I said to her once, I said, you ever think it was maybe your teaching methods of the both of you? Of you 2 that may be the problem? They both just looked at me. Oh, so when I snapped at the assistant lady one day for treating me horrible all the time, she had nerve to go to the assistant principal So he walks in after. Goes, oh, what's the problem here? I looked at him, I said, oh, excuse me. There ain't no problem. I said, but you know what? Speaking of problems, I said, here, I got one for you. He looked at me like, oh, what's that? I go, do you ever think it was maybe some of the help that was hired around here? The help that you people hired around here. Maybe the problem. Oh, he just looked at me. I said, that may be the problem. I said, other than that, I don't see a problem here, do you? Now go back to your office and sit down. He walked out and didn't say 2 words. I said, there, that's how it should be. Oh, now, I mind you, the main lady and the assistant would even sit there and had nerve to talk about the librarian lady. They would always sit there and say all these things, horrible things about her. But I mind you, she was one of the nicest ones, other than the teacher's aide. So, oh, they would sit there and talk about the teacher's aide too. I could tell you that much. Oh, yeah, I know that all too well. But yet, yeah, that's just how they were. Oh, then there was this male teacher figure person. He was horrible too. Well, so one day I'm in one of the there was an assignment that I was doing in one of the other classes with one of the other teachers in the computer class. So, and then the computer teacher lady says to me, hey, can you run an errand for me real quick? I said, oh, yeah. No problem. I was like, so what you need? So she tells me, I was like, all right, yeah, I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, I can handle that. No problem. Don't worry about it. So I'm doing that for her. Running this errand, something that she had to drop off to somewhere. I can't remember what it was for, but she had to drop this piece. She had to drop a certain packet thing off with all these different things in it. And she said, you just want to run this to the office or something for me? I was like, yeah, oh, no problem. This male teacher had nerve to follow me. So I do that. He's following me. I go back and I'm like, hey, it's all done. I'm good to go. She's like, all right, you're done. I'm like, okay. Yeah, you finished your thing? I was like, yep. She's like, all right, thank you. I was like, oh, no problem. Like, you need anything else, just let me know. All right. So I go back to the classroom that I'm in, that I was normally in. So I go back there. He walks in. I sit down. He walks in, looks at the main lady and tells her that I was literally saying all these horrible things to him and that I was calling him all these things that I wasn't. So this main lady, educated mentor lady figure has nerve the next day to make me write an apology letter and apologize to this jerk. I said, excuse me, I did not do anything wrong, and you want me to apologize for something that I did not even do? I don't think so. I was like, all right, you know what, here, fine. I'll write the damn apology letter to shut you up. I'm all for that. I was like, so you know what? Fine, let it be. Oh, she just looked at me. Oh, I wrote it exactly like she said. So I was like, you know what, whatever. So then, honestly, you want to know what? So then it got to the point where eventually my ass was out of there, up and graduated. Then I found out from a friend of mine at the time who was a little younger than I was, like a couple years. So my friend had told me afterwards that this teacher was like that with her. Besides, I said, oh, I figured as much. So then at one point, the main lady thought I was coming back after graduation. I said, oh, hell no. Oh, when she found that out, I literally thought she was going to fall to the floor. I just looked at her. I was like, oh, well, too bad, so sad. Technically, I do not have to come back, and I will not. So whoever told you that obviously lied to you. She just looking at me like, oh, how come? I was like, because I don't want to deal with you being horrible. Do you ever think it might have something to do with your teaching methods? Yeah, that was majority of the problem, was all her the entire time. But you know what? Honestly, it was a nice break graduating, get away from. It was a nice break at the time to graduate, to get away from her. So, obviously, this did make an impact. If this did not make an impact, any of these things that I was just talking about, I would not be on here talking about them. But obviously, you know what? They did make an impact. So therefore, that's why I'm talking about them in the first place. So now, I could understand, if they had ever apologized, which they never ever did. I was like, you know what? Be that way, fine. But you know what? I don't care anymore. But you know what? Here it's years later, and obviously this still has an effect on me. Here you think it wouldn't by now. But let me tell you something. Oh, it does. I could tell you that much exactly. But then again, like I had said, if this did not make a huge impact or affect me, if this did not affect me the way that it did, I would not be on here talking about it. But obviously, these things that I am talking about actually did. Or, like I said, I would not be talking about them. Oh, also, I just wanted to say that. Now, any comments or questions, please email the podcast. My email should be either in the description or in the community post somewhere. So, 3 questions, So 3 questions will be picked, and you will get an answer on a live episode. Now, you can also email the podcast if you want to be on the podcast. That's not a big deal. Also, be sure, before you subscribe to my channel or this podcast, make sure you read the disclaimer in the description or up above. Now, read that before you hit subscribe or do anything. Now, that being said, anyway, just 1 second here. So, like I said, all this happened. And then, the funny thing is, a couple years later, my friend graduates. My friend says to me at the time, because one day I got a message from a friend of mine on social media. I think it was Facebook, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's what it was. So, my friend sends me a message one day, and she was like, hey, graduated all now the days. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. She's like, hey, I'm not in school anymore. I was like, oh, sweet. And she was like, hey, you want to hang out or something sometime? I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I want to. Oh, hell yes. I want to hang out sometime again. I was like, like we used to? Like, oh, hell yeah. So needless to say, I messaged my friend back, and she was like, oh, I also got to talk to you about some stuff too. And I'm like, okay. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, we need to catch up anyway with things. So and she goes, yeah, come over. I'm like, all right. I was like, well, you want me to come over to your house, or you want to come to my place? Either way. And she goes, yeah, come over to my house. Me, my mom and me will both be home. I was like, okay. And she's like, my daughter, she's like, oh, me, my mom and my daughter will all be there too. I was like, okay, cool. So I go over, me and my friend, and her mom and her daughter, who was just born at the time. So we start talking. Her mother says to me, my friend and her mom both say to me, the way how this teacher was to them, or how this teacher was to my friend. I look at my friend and her mom. I go, huh. I said, that's interesting. I said, because you know what? They were both like that with me. So I had a feeling. I said, I think she's been doing it for years. Come to find out she has. And was allowed to get away with it. Oh, we had quite a long conversation about that. I could tell you that much. Oh. But then I said to myself, you know what? I was like, we don't got to deal with it anymore with her because we don't got to look at her anymore. Thank God. I said, wasn't it a nice break after graduating slightly and getting away from her? That's when we both looked at each other and went, yep. So that was that. And I said to my friend and her mom, I'm like, hey, if this did not make an impact on me and you and your mom, I said, you know what? We would not literally be sitting here at your house right now talking about this. They both looked at me and said, we thought the exact same thing. I said, so did I. But like I said, me and my friend and her mom had quite a long conversation about all that. So just remember to email the podcast if you'd like to be on the podcast. It's not a problem. And I will see you all in the next episode of episode 10 of the podcast. Bye.